Welcome to An Honorable Profession, a podcast giving America hope since 2018. I'm Ryan Coonerty. Along with Debbie Cox Bultan of the New Deal, I'm lucky enough to be your co-host. An Honorable Profession is a New Deal Leaders podcast. The New Deal is an organization that supports the next generation of American leaders. From attorneys generals to state senators to mayors to school board members, these are the people that are pushing policies and politics that will respond to climate change, rebuild our economy, address racial injustice, and restore our democracy. These are incredibly talented people who have dedicated themselves to public service when their country and their communities needed it the most. Check out newdealleaders.org to see what I'm talking about.
Hello, and Honorable Profession listeners. I'm Rachel, the producer of the show, and today we're bringing you another special bonus episode. Our bonus content throughout the month of October features host and New Deal CEO Debbie Cox Bultan in conversation with New Deal leaders from across the country as they cover all things elections. We're looking closely at swing states in the presidential race, as well as states with key state legislative races, ballot initiatives, and more. Today, we head to Georgia to talk with State Senator Elena Parent, who joined us right after casting her ballot. Senator Parent talks about the enthusiasm in Georgia for the Harris-Walz ticket and the record turnout in early voting despite the state's strict voting laws. She also focuses on freedom as a top issue on voters' minds this year, pointing to the tragic deaths of Amber Thurman and Candi as painful reminders of what Republicans have done to reproductive rights and healthcare in the state. Senator Parent gives us an authentic look at the issues motivating voters in her swing state. Enjoy and join us again next week for another bonus episode.
Elena Parent, welcome to this special episode of An Honorable Profession.
Hey, Debbie.
It's so good to see you.
Here.
It's great to have you. How are you doing? I'm sitting in California. I'm not in a swing state. We are down the home stretch. You are on the ground on one of those 7 states that are every minute is being watched by everybody around the country. How are you feeling about how things are going there?
There is certainly a lot of activity here. I mean, there's special guests visiting us all the time. I mean, obviously the candidates are here a lot, as well as we've had Bill Clinton, Barack Obama's coming. Thursday, there's a big rally. So it really has been, event after event and lots of course, ads and paid advertising and also volunteer opportunities. Yeah. So it's exciting. I voted today.
Yay, so, that's exciting. Do you see any other ads besides campaign ads, or is it wall-to-wall campaign ads? Every time I'm in a swing state these days, it's wall-to-wall. There's nothing else on the TV.
I mean, that's most of it, yeah.
That's most of it.
I mean, there may be like a car here and there, or like a pharmaceutical, but
yeah. So, I mean, it seems like, particularly on our side of the aisle, the vice president's drawing big crowds, the vice president and Tim Walz. What are you seeing and hearing from people you're talking to? What's the enthusiasm like down there?
Yeah, there was definitely a market shift when Kamala got in the race and gave people kind of the jolt of energy they needed. Mm-hmm. And immediately signs went up everywhere. And so there is a lot of that. We've had record early voter turnout, which obviously also signifies enthusiasm. But certainly Georgia is a state that can be won, but it is a state with very, very close margins, and one where it probably still, everything else being equal, leans like slightly right. Mm-hmm. So therefore, a lot of, you have to keep your foot on the gas.
Yeah.
Now, everything is not equal in the sense that many Georgia voters are turned off by Trump, didn't approve of the way he handled his last stint in the White House, voted to fire him in 2020. So I would not categorize him as the type of average Republican candidate that might have a leg up on an average Democratic candidate.
Yeah, that's fair. You guys have also obviously been kind of the epicenter of the democracy and
Yeah.
elections themselves, right? A lot of attention recently about your board of elections changing rules at the last minute, even including thinking about doing or trying to do hand counting of all the ballots in Georgia, which I think that
Right.
provision was thrown out. But you were telling me,
It
but there
was.
were other things in that in those rules that were made, right? Including like where drop boxes were going to go and other things. So like, how are you feeling? I know voting, you mentioned it kind of is open. People are already voting. Like, how's it going? And what are you worried about? What are you watching on the election itself, administration front?
Yeah. There have been so many changes and new, you know, balls entering the playing field, kind of right and left in Georgia since the 2020 election. Hopefully, Georgians are not worrying about any of that and they're just going to the polls. That would be my recommendation. I have not heard yet of any big issues. Doubtless, there will be some. We have very active voter protection hotlines
Mm-hmm.
that can really help folks. There were, the Republicans managed to sort of or decided to enable third party groups to submit names to the boards of elections at the county level and say like we don't believe these individuals these individuals are registered and we do not think they should be. We think they
Oh,
are
wow.
improperly registered. They're either moved or are not eligible to vote for some other reason. And empowering these groups is not a good policy decision, primarily because they pretty much all stem from the right and they can create problems simply by filing all these things, even if none of their accusations turn out to be valid. I mean, we don't, the staff levels and the amount of work put on our elections boards forever, but especially within the past 4 years is just totally outrageous. And um, people are trying their best to run an election and just be good election administrators. But with the staffing levels and the funding levels, that's already difficult. And then, of course, it's just that much more difficult when you have these groups sort of submitting thousands of names and saying, like, you need to, take these off the rolls or verify that they actually can vote. And, I mean, the boards have done it. I really have to give them a lot of credit for handling all that has been thrown at them and not just throwing up their hands and walking away.
Yeah. So can those challenges be made all the way up to election day, or was there like
No,
a?
now we're in a quiet period, thank goodness. I
Okay.
think they were
Okay.
trying to eliminate, or some group was trying to eliminate the quiet period, but you
Okay.
know, we have
Yeah.
had some bipartisan agreement pushing back on some of this stuff
Oh.
from the Association of Elections Administrators.
Mm.
That
Mm-hmm.
is a statewide bipartisan group, as well as the Secretary of State's office, and that has been, I think, helpful. Both of those groups, the Secretary of State's office and the GovRayo is what it is, the Georgia Board of Voter Registrations and Elections, or Association of Georgia, registrars, have, and to a much lesser extent, the Attorney General's office have sort of pointed out when things, especially all these new rules out of the state elections board really were overstepping their legal authority.
Yeah.
So that,
That's
that was
good.
helpful. It was like,
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
this isn't like some partisan thing. Y'all are the
Right.
ones who are trying to make it some partisan thing. And this is oversteps authority and really just isn't good election administration. It's not feasible.
No, that's right.
So luckily
That's
it has
right.
not just been a one-sided argument on that.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I mean, I talk to secretaries of state all the time around the country, and they're always talking about their counterparts on the Republican secretary of states. It's like there's a lot of people actually working in a bipartisan way to try to just make this election is going to go smoothly and fairly. And so it's good to hear that news coming out of Georgia. I mean, I guess I have to mention it, and I'll date this conversation today, because I just got this message right before I got on this alert that apparently 2 of your election workers, while we're on the subject, are getting Giuliani's townhouse in New York, penthouse.
Oh, I hadn't seen that yet. I knew they were. I knew that they had filed some things to try to seize. Well, they wanted to seize his like Super Bowl rings or World Series rings or something.
Yeah, I think this is some valuable things, and including his penthouse that is owed to them for the defamation
Wow,
stuff.
yeah.
So
And
I
then
mean,
his
his
son had
crazy.
said they're really mine. Yeah, they were trying to interfere with that. But I mean, the one thing I'll say about that is it's Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss who really had this whole Trump election stealing scheme ruin their lives for a period of time, and probably I'm sure they're still getting all sorts of hate directed at them. I was glad that they succeeded in their defamation. Here's the problem: we've got Giuliani, deservedly getting disbarred and going down, but like we have Trump plausibly winning the White House again. Like there's a problem with that picture, and we need that man to be defeated and sent off to play golf.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. So maybe just turning to kind of what else you're hearing around the state. So you also are, I'm sure, campaigning for House candidates and the Senate candidates that are up.
Yes.
You sit in the Senate. So like, when you're going to talk to voters right now, like what's on their minds? What are you hearing from them about what's going to matter to them when it comes down to who they're going to vote for?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's always kind of the economy, right? People, of course, want to, feel like they can earn a fair wage to provide for themselves and their family. And I think that we have very good arguments as Democrats as to why we're the better party to lead that,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a matter of, getting that across. But look, I mean, voters are also, they see now that certain things that Republicans always said they would do, that they actually meant it in terms of, curtailing reproductive freedom. That's resonated in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
We had a tragic school shooting not that long ago. The child was given this AR-15 by his father. The child was 14, very young.
Mm-hmm.
And, in Georgia, it's simply not illegal to give your child AR-15. Perfectly legal. And there's no laws that you have to lock up guns around children. This is all due to Republicans bending to the will of the gun lobby. So there are plenty of things that in these districts that are swing districts, and it is mostly Democrats on offense.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two really salient issues.
That's so. And do you feel like that's resonating with the average voter? I mean, obviously, Georgia was also in the headline, as you pointed out, tragically for a woman losing her life, right? Who was not able to get abortion care too.
And those are just, yes. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So people are aware of that. People know that it's on. You're hearing it when you knock on doors. People are talking about it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, look, the Republicans have another story about why they died, which involves the fact that they both took, mifepristone and an abortion pill. So doubtless we will see further legislation to try to restrict that, because that's their story, right? But the reality is, Amber Thurman and Candi Miller would be alive today had the 6-week abortion ban bill not passed and been signed into law. And let's be very clear that the maternal deaths that are reviewed by the Maternal Mortality Review Board, and deemed preventable, as these two were, we are on a significant lag, as you would imagine. It's not like someone dies and the next month it gets reviewed. These two women died almost immediately after the law went into effect. So there are doubtless others that we will learn about.
Yeah. That's terrible. I'm so sorry. And it's just, it feels like, there's just, to your point, there's kind of so much that's on the ballot, right? Freedom wise, right? Freedom for reproductive freedom from school shootings, freedom to have your vote counted. It feels like Georgia's kind of at the crossroads of all of that.
I think we absolutely are.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you foresee any kind of, thinking as we get past the election, do you foresee any kind of changes in what might happen in your state legislature or around the state, like in response to some of this stuff that's happening? Or is it just, really, we're going to balance out at the presidential level and just go back to business as usual?
Georgia is very susceptible to a lot of these national trends, just like a lot of states are. But being a state that can vote either way makes it, you don't need a landslide, right? Like it doesn't have to be a wave election for a Democrat or a Republican to win. And so there will continue to be a lot of interest, investment in Georgia, funding the type of infrastructure that we need to turn the state more reliably blue. I mean, having had a Republican trifecta for 20 years now, that's how we got these gun bills. That's how we got the abortion, the 6-week ban.
Yeah.
So I think more and more voters understand that they want to have a check on that. They want to have a check on that. But you and I both know that that takes sustained organizing and investment. And so I do think that that's going to continue to be how Georgia is seen. I mean, we have made gains in the legislature, but we are going to need continued investment and recruitment of good candidates to be able to continue to flip seats and take a chamber. Like it's going to happen, but it didn't happen fast enough for the students at Appalachia High or Amber Thurman or Candi Miller, right? So there are real consequences to this, and the quicker we can get where there's a check on extremist Republican laws that, frankly, given the fact that we're going into a gubernatorial cycle where all of our, we'll have an open governor's mansion, we've got some real extreme folks who may end up getting the nomination on the Republican side, right? And they are deep into a lot of this stuff and trying to carry the MAGA flag. And so Georgia has benefited over many, many years, I think, from like fairly moderate leadership. Like we haven't gone as nuts as like some of the stuff in Florida or Texas as a general matter. And the rhetoric hasn't been that elevated. But like all that could end. Which is all the more reason that, every single legislative seat gained makes it that much more difficult for them to pass a really extreme agenda.
Yeah.
So, we need to keep working. It is gratifying to see that there's a lot of folks on offense this cycle.
Yeah, no, that is really great to see. Before I let you go, anything you're going to be watching? When will we know? When do you predict that we'll have results out of Georgia? Is this going to be a prolonged thing, or is it? Do people think that they're going to be election night? And what will you be watching to kind of read your tea leaves in your own state? To see who might be winning.
I mean, look, any election that, if it was as close as it was last time, it's one of those things where you may kind of know, but it's not going to get officially called, right, for a while. That being said, we will have far fewer people voting by absentee ballot. The Republicans interfered with the ability to do the drop boxes, and the U.S. mail has been spotty, actually, due to some reorganization that came out of the DeJoy U.S. Postal Service. So that it's settled down. But I think a lot of people are reticent to do mail-in because, in the Atlanta area, there were some serious issues in March, April, May. So, what that does mean is that more of the data should be available sooner because it will be the early vote and then it's processed. So the early vote should come in pretty quickly and give us a good clue. Clue. But the day of vote will take a little longer. And again, if like someone appears to be up by a lot, we might know that early in the morning.
Yeah.
If it's that close, no, because I feel like every ballot will then be contested and we might know the direction it's going, but it probably won't be for a while.
I think we're all going to have to know to settle in, get comfy. It may be a while.
I think that's right. I think enough states are going to be really close that I doubt we'll know anything election night, but who knows? I mean, the polls have been wrong the last few cycles. And so I just tell everyone, we just have to keep working. You can't take any stock in them. Of course, they're all saying that it's, basically a dead heat anyway. So what's the message on that? Keep working.
Keep working. Keep working. That is a great way to end it. Keep working. Go out and vote. Thank you, Elena Parent. So fun to see you. Appreciate it. Good luck in the last 2 weeks there on the ground. And we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Debbie. I look forward to it and can't wait to see you in person in November.
Likewise.
An Honorable Profession is a New Deal Leaders podcast. Thanks to the team at New Deal for producing this episode. We encourage you to bring honor to public service, and because we keep things honorable, no tax dollars are used in the making of this podcast.
This podcast is part of the Democracy Group.